right. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 35, Building with Breven. This is the last episode of our 7-part series that we've been doing, which was based on our most popular episode, episode 22, where we break down the 7 steps to building your custom home. So we're going to jump into this last episode here, wrap up this series. It's been a fun one, and we've been honored to have you as part of it, Dad. Yeah.
Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dad. Thank you. And this final step 7, we're just going to jump right into it and knock it out. This is the final phase of your home. Now you're at the end here. We call this the final phase. It also includes punch work at the end there. The final walkthrough and warranty will also be covered at the end of this episode. So, Dad, anything to add there as we jump into this episode?
No, it's great to be here, Steven. Let's go back and educate maybe the uneducated homebuyer what punch is. Everybody talks about what's punch, and punch isn't literally throwing punches, but it's a chance to kind of go through the home and detail it is kind of a way to summarize what punch is. So when you hear the word, when we're talking about punch out or punch, we're talking about kind of going through, making a detailed list and analyzing the house at a much finer detail level.
Awesome. Yep. Good thing to clear up there before we start going full force on this episode and people don't know what punch is. Yeah, that's exactly it. Punch items goes on a punch list, and it's things that, us as builders have on a running list usually, or some sort of list to get completed or fixed. So what is this final phase? What's included? I think we already touched on it at a high level, but let's get into it. We're going to talk about the interior and the exterior like we did on the last couple episodes. And real quickly, where we're picking up after last week's episode of episode 34, basically that covered all the interior trim and a little bit of the exterior stuff. So interior trim, doors, baseboards, casing, all that kind of stuff was going in, countertops, cabinets, tile, paint, a lot of things were happening in that last trim phase. So now that all that stuff is done, most of the interior is looking great. Your HVAC trim is done, your light fixtures are in, plumbing trims are in, so your faucets, shower heads, all that stuff should be in at this point. That's where we're really getting down to the end here of what's left, and then also just the punch work of tweaking or fixing anything that went in the last phase that needs to be fixed at this point before closing on your new home. So picking up there, what's still needed on the interior, Dad? I think we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I can think of off the top of my head, and then I'll let you kind of dive deeper, but carpet, appliances, what else are we missing here?
Yeah. If you have a water softener, final clean, maybe inspections, we call this the last 5%. The house is 95% done. This is the last 5%. So it's literally kind of dotting the I and crossing the T's and putting in those last few little things that make a house a home.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point. Yeah, that last 5% is the way we look at it as a builder. And it's also the hardest 5% of any build. We know that firsthand, just to pull everybody back together, get some trades back in there that thought they were done maybe, but they need to come back and finish some things or fix things or whatever. But yeah, it's exactly what the home needs to finish out properly and look great and really have that final personal touch. So yeah, you hit on some good stuff. So let's jump in. I mean, carpet, not too much to discuss there, but they should be doing the pad and the carpet. Of course, we put this in now right before final paint touch-ups, just in case they bump a wall or a baseboard or something like that. Can be touched up pretty easily. But yeah, carpet is now, that's when it's going in.
Yeah, I'll just throw in don't put the carpet in a month early or 2 months early. Put the carpet in, right at the end. Put the carpet in, do the final paint touch up, and be done. So you don't want people walking on your carpet with muddy boots and whatnot. So just a sidebar there.
Yep. We try to time carpet around the same time as landscaping, typically right after landscaping goes in, because that way you've got your carpet outside you've got your grass, things like that. So hopefully not too much mud, but it's still a tough thing to try to time all this stuff at the end here. Like we talked about in the last episode, this isn't really as critical of a path in the phase 2 part, especially towards the end. It's just get everything in there and get everything done, because you could drag the house out for a really long time trying to wait on certain things, but you do want to be smart about it. Make sure you're not just throwing things in there when they don't belong or when they could get damaged or whatever else. So being smart about it, but that's why we wait for some of these things in this final phase, such as the carpet, such as the appliances as well, which we'll jump into. So appliances, I would say, are pretty much next. Appliances, carpet kind of go hand in hand there towards the end.
Right.
What should the homeowners be kind of keeping their eye open for on appliances?
Well, you want to make sure that they're the right appliances, and then builders shouldn't put them in too soon, because if they're in too soon, the trades can use the appliances. You don't want the trades using your appliances. They can get scratched, dented, or stolen. I mean, around the holidays, appliances tend to get stolen because it's a Christmas gift, perhaps, for somebody. So, look out for that. But, and then fit and finish, make sure that it fits, probably more on the builder side, but you want to put the appliances in really, really close to closing, prior to the final walkthrough for sure, but just make sure that everything's in and fits properly. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Since this post-COVID era, we've seen a lot more where appliances will come off of the assembly line, be boxed up. We get the boxes perfectly fine at the job site. So no visible damage on the boxes. And then we unbox these appliances and they've got a scratch or a nick or a ding or a dent or something on them. And yeah, now's the time where you're looking at that as soon as it comes out of the box. Is it good? Is it all good? They come with this protective film and all kinds of stuff, but you kind of want to take that off and just double check before you get to the closing table or the final day when you're moving in. And then they pull the plastic off, pull all the stuff off the appliances, and you're looking at it and you think, oh man, this is scratched. So you may not think it, but yeah, they're coming off the assembly line more and more. Unfortunately, yeah, not perfect. So,
and it's a good thing to inspect too, Stephen, because after you close on the home, if there's a big dent in your appliance, the builder's going to assume you did it and it's not a builder fault. So all the scratch and dents, they have to be inspected prior to closing to make sure that you don't get into an argument with your builder that you did it. No, it came that way. Just make sure it's good and not scratched before you close, so you don't get into that argument.
Yeah, definitely true, right? Because it's tough from our builder perspective to say, hey, you moved all your stuff in this past weekend and now you're telling us that you have a scratch on your refrigerator. Yeah, it makes us think that maybe somebody with a moving dolly or whatever walked right past it, and that's
it's a normal assumption.
Yeah. So yeah, just seeing it from both sides, but also on the appliances, using them all. Dad, you made a good comment before we started this episode that this is the time in this final phase where you really want to test. I mean, every time you're in that home, test things as much as you can. It sounds silly, but use the toilets, use the home like you're going to be living there, because you are in a couple weeks probably.
Right.
And you want to catch any issues now, leaky sinks. So when you wash your hands when you're in the home, or let the sinks run for a while and fill up and then drain them, dump them. That's what we call it. You check underneath, make sure that the drain connections are all tight. Everything's good. You're not leaking water. Same thing with the appliances. That's what we're going back to, is
absolutely,
your dishwasher is connected properly. The drain hose isn't loose or leaking or something like that. Now is the time you want to catch that. And when somebody is in the home, let me specify that. Don't turn the water on and walk out and talk to a neighbor across the street, or have your builder be checking it while they're walking with an inspector on the other side of the home. Make sure you're standing there while you're testing these things, because water can travel pretty quick. So yeah, just something to be aware of, but test right now, because you definitely want to find it before you move in. And it's not uncommon, let me tell you, that there's a small leak under a sink, or there's some appliance that doesn't function properly, or the breaker's tripped, or something small. But it's a good time to catch it now while your builder is still in the home and has the trades there and can fix it pretty easily.
Yeah, you're bringing the home to life. And if you're in there anyway, take a look around. Yeah, go ahead and turn stuff on. Flush toilets, run sinks, flip light switches. Not demo the house, but go ahead and use it, because you could find something that the builder has overseen.
Yeah, I like that. Bring the home to life. That goes back to my body analogy, where we had talked about the jewelry and all that kind of stuff. Jewelry, handbags, sunglasses, all those accessories were what we were considering the trim phase last time. Now, if you will, we're bringing the whole home to life. This is where we've connected everything, turning on the HVAC system, probably letting the electrical turn on, and all the light fixtures, all that kind of stuff. You can actually use those. The plumbing, that should be all a functional system where the water's coming in and then going out the sewer, of course, all that good stuff. So yeah, really turning the home on is at this phase.
And if you're from the up north, turn the heater on, run the heater on your house. Do you know that a lot of times when you turn on the heater for the first time, it blows smoke because there's oil on the coils, and you're going to maybe set off the smoke alarms. And if you did the first time you ever turned them on is when you live there, you're going to think that something's on fire. Make sure, go ahead and run the air conditioning, run the heat, and put it to a small test before you move in, and burn off the oils on the heat exchanger. That's kind of normal stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, I think you touched on it a little bit, but going with this appliances section here, any special units you may have for your home, I can talk. You brought up a good point in the northern homes and stuff, but down here in the south, we see a lot of people using generators or backup generators, water softeners. We have hard water where we're building a reverse osmosis water systems. What else am I missing? I mean, even fresh air intakes on an HVAC system, dehumidifiers on an HVAC system. There's all kinds of extra added things. And now's the time where you want to make sure that those are installed and then tested as well. Once again, we treat the water softener kind of like an appliance. We don't install it too early, but we install it towards the end and make sure it's fired up, has salt in it. That's just an example. Same thing with the generator. I would say if you've got a whole home generator or backup generator, all these special units or special appliances, features, things like that, now's the time where they should be started up and, tested out and worked through and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Also, if you have speaker systems or special electronics, low voltage lighting, LED lighting, go ahead and play with the remote controls. If it's a fireplace, electronic fireplace, for example, go ahead and play with the controls and the switches and make sure all that stuff works.
Yeah. And now I want to mention too, a lot of units or systems are smart capable, of course. So they need to connect to your Wi-Fi and then have an app on your phone. Everybody has an app now. Your ceiling fan has its own app, all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. But as builders, typically we won't let the homeowners turn on their Wi-Fi or get their Wi-Fi set up until after closing. So that's just a note that you most likely won't be able to turn on the smart features and functions of your new home until after closing when you can set up your Wi-Fi. Hopefully your units allow you to still test them out without Wi-Fi. You can still turn them on. You can still use the basic functions, make sure that the Wi-Fi is ready. But yeah, without actually having Wi-Fi in the home, that may be a little bit of a limiting factor here.
Yeah, good point.
Now you touched on it too. We're jumping into the punch phase of the home. So now basically everything is in your home. Little tweaks, things here and there. This is what we call the punch phase or the punch work of the home at the very end. It's, hey, there's a scuff on the wall over here, or hey, this door handle is loose, or hey, we're missing a toilet paper holder here. Just little things like that we've seen, and we've probably monitored them for a little bit now, but we wait until one phase where it's like, hey, we can get everybody back in there, get them all at the same time. And we've got this compiled list of things that we've seen, things that maybe our clients or homeowners have seen. And it goes on this punch list that we work off of. And we make sure that we're getting everything taken care of at this time before we get to that final walkthrough with the homeowners. So that's the goal. Try to knock out as much of those punch items as possible. I even throw inspection items on this final huge punch list. I say huge, it could be small, it could be big. It doesn't have any indication on how well or bad the home was built. It's just
a completion list.
Yep, it's a completion list. So some homes have more than others, and that's just the way it goes. But bigger homes too, right? There's just more square footage, there's more things, there's more fixtures, there's more everything. So that explains a lot of that as well. But this final running punch list is where we're going back and getting these items corrected before that final walkthrough, ideally.
Let me jump in here and say something that as a home buyer, don't get frustrated when you see a minor plumbing issue and you tell the builder, I want this fixed now. Well, there might be 25 things on the punch list for the plumber. So we're going to wait and get the plumber back one time. It's very inefficient to keep calling the trades back for the onesies, one thing here, one thing there. So we're going to wait until all the items are accumulated and bring the plumber back one time, electrician back one time, painter back one time. So we see all those things, just setting an expectation that I think that a lot of times builders do see things and they're purposely trying to exercise some efficiency and bringing trades back one time rather than every time you call and say, hey, this is broken, this needs adjusting, we know that we're going to get to it, but as efficiently as we can.
Yep. Yeah, and playing off of that, you mentioned, there might be 10, 15, 20, 25 items for the plumber all at once. I don't want that to scare people. Just an example of an item that might go on our list for the plumber might be, hey, there's a crooked bathroom sink faucet, right? Something like that, it's
caulk
super
around the
simple.
bottom of the toilet, or
Exactly. Caulk around the bottom of the toilet. Yeah.
a scratched toilet bowl handle or something.
Yeah. Super small things typically, but that's stuff that we look at. And the more critical you are, the more you see. So as you're walking that home, I mean, I don't want to be the one to put caulking at the bottom of a toilet bowl. I don't want to be the one to have to loosen the nut underneath a shower or a sink faucet and straighten it out and then retighten it. That should be the plumber's job. And so what we do is we put that back on the plumber, ideally so that their guys, who are usually the ones that are installing things, learn. And then the next homes that we build with them go a little bit smoother because they know I had to come back and fix that last time. I'm going to do better this time. So that's the thought. Every home has new things and new stuff that's never been seen by either side, probably. So it's just a note there that doesn't need to be daunting. It's just there's a lot of little nitpicky things that can go on this punch list, and that's why it can be short or long depending on how thorough these walks are.
Yeah. Not to scare anybody with the 25 items for the plumber. It's not just 25 leaks. Everyone thinks when you hear a plumber, you're thinking a leak. It's not leaks.
It's not leaks. It's hardly ever
most things are not leaks for plumbers.
Yep, for sure. Cool. So as we're working through punch work, kind of concurrently, but towards the end of that punch work, once we feel like we've got most of the people back through there, we're feeling pretty good about everything. That's when we send the final cleaners through. Probably paint right before. So have the painters come through, just hit some minor paint touch-ups at the end there. And then once the paint dries, send the cleaners in after that. So the cleaners are going to be one of the last people to go through there, do a true final clean, what we call like a move-in ready clean. So they're going to clean everything in that house from top to bottom, windows, inside and outside, all the way down to baseboards, flooring, cleaning showers, toilets, of course, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Even appliances, they should be opening the brand new appliances. And if there's, humidity or whatever, anything, just cleaning those, making sure that they're spotless. And then even outside, we're going to have power washing of the flat work. So making sure that now that your landscaping is installed, which we'll touch on that in a little bit, but they're going to go ahead and pressure wash that and make sure your driveway and your walkways and all that kind of stuff are clean, patios, all that good stuff. So making sure everything looks move-in ready. Now, I will admit this usually is not the final clean. This is the big bulk clean. And then we typically send the cleaners back through one last time just for a touch-up clean.
Before closing.
Exactly, right before the closing. So it just depends on how your builder does it, how quickly you finish out your home. If it's a maybe more simple home, might be a little bit quicker and you can do that final clean just once. If it's a more complex home and this final phase lingers a little bit, then sending the cleaner back through one more time is a nice touch. I like to do after the final clean, I'll run the final inspections, or we'll run the final inspections. I feel like it's a great time because you've got most of your punch items already addressed. So the obvious things that an inspector would call out, you've hopefully already addressed and knocked out. Don't give them any easy, low-hanging fruit, and make it tough for these inspectors to find something. That's kind of a feather in your cap as a builder. And, you want it to be a really tight home, a very minimal inspection list. So trust me, as a builder, we know what inspectors call out, what they look for. If you've built enough homes, you know what an inspector is going to find. So there's very few inspections that we do that I'm shocked by the results that, oh my gosh, that blindsided me. It's usually things that, I already knew about that. Thanks for putting it on there.
Right.
Already got it on my list.
On the punch list already.
Yeah. And inspectors are not enemies, by the way. I mean, I hope that as listeners listen to this, we welcome inspectors. As a builder, it helps us build a tighter home. It helps us cut down warranty stuff. There are very few times where an inspector will come through and look at one of our homes that we've built and, oh, wow, you know what? We didn't even catch that. Didn't know. And thanks for bringing that to our attention. It's just another set of eyes. Helps us build an even tighter home. So
and keeping the builder honest. I mean, you're not going to cut corners when there's an inspector, nor should you anyway. But we do welcome inspectors because they do keep you honest. And every once in a while they'll come up with something like, oh, okay, we'll get that, or didn't know about that, or maybe the code changed and they're calling you out on a new code, whatever. Yeah, inspectors are a good thing. We really do welcome them.
Yep. And that's a good point, right? That inspectors are trained on new code items, whereas builders, yes, we keep up with that, but inspectors have to go through trainings to make sure that they're up to date on code stuff, new code things. We trust that our trades are up to date on their specific code items. That's what we do. We hire the professionals. We don't have to be the professionals in 50 different areas of the home. It's just not possible. Although we do our best and we are very good at that. We want to rely on our trades, first of all, but then also inspectors to catch anything that may have slipped through the cracks. So definitely good to bring those inspectors through at this time. Different municipalities are going to have different required inspections, but when we talk through inspections, we're actually talking through most likely a third-party inspector, an unbiased third-party inspector, whether that's hired by your builder, which we do. We'll hire our own, or it's not even our own, it's just a third-party inspector that'll come out, but we do hire them as the builder. We reach out as opposed to having our homeowners have to feel like they need to do that. The homeowners are welcome to hire their own third-party inspectors as well. It's just another set of eyes like we talked about. So it's always welcomed and helps to really tie the house together at the end there.
We also add in the energy efficiency test. We do a blower door test and duct blaster test to see how airtight our homes are. We want to keep up with all that, and that's the time to do that too.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, they do that final energy inspection at this point where they're checking visually energy stuff and then also checking, like you mentioned, that blower door final test to make sure, and to break that down just a little bit more, how airtight your home is built. They'll actually give you a rating, and based on that rating, you can determine how energy efficient the home is. And energy efficiency, of course, equates to lower utility bills, better comfort in your new home, all that kind of stuff. So it's something that as you get further into custom homes and reputable builders, they actually take pride in how energy efficient their homes are. So it's kind of a cool thing, and a little bit of a competition, if you will. But building an energy efficient home is definitely important in this day and age. Well, cool. Yeah. We walked through inspections. Dad, anything to note before we get to this final walkthrough with the client? So this is all kind of stuff that we've talked about up to this point of what your builder should really be doing on the back end. There's not too much that involves the homeowners, you guys as the listeners ideally, but anytime you are in the home prior to that final walkthrough, like we said, just looking around, testing things as you go. Try not to pick the house apart too much because your builder may still be doing the punch work and may still be very aware of things that you're probably going to bring to their attention, but just mentally note them. Or if your builder's around or is receptive to your comments, definitely tell them. But try to save them for, around that final walkthrough phase, which is what we're about to get to. That gives your builder a chance and the inspectors and everybody else to find a lot of things before you walk the home at the final walkthrough. And then, then you can say, hey, this was an item before. I saw that the sink faucet was crooked. Yep, you already got it caught. You already fixed it, and great. Now I can take that off my list. We can all take it off the list and move into that final walkthrough.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee if it's something on a homeowner's list, we've probably seen it. It's probably on one of our lists, and waiting for the correct trade to get in there to fix it. But you're right, Steven. It's take notes of all those things, but you should also be pleasantly surprised that all those things are going to be getting fixed along the way, because you have a 10-item punch list, we have a 50-item punch list. So it's more than likely going to be on our list anyway. It's worth bringing up for sure, but don't be disappointed when you see a little crooked faucet maybe, but that's something we're going to address.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Reputable builders have probably, they know these hands or these homes like the back of their hand. And hopefully you're not bringing anything to their attention that shocks them. But every once in a while, homeowners will see some things. And also there's some times where, homeowners don't say something, and then they get to the final walkthrough and sure enough, it's still something that needs to be corrected.
Certainly keep the lines of communication open. That's also key. We're not ever offended by you're bringing something to our attention to say that, hey, this needs adjusting or whatever the case may be. But it's nice to let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not offended by that at all.
Definitely. Cool. And now that we've been talking about it a little bit, but this final walkthrough is the next phase. So we've got the home cleaned, we've got the inspections done, and we have those items back, whether the builder has fixed those inspection items or is just kind of sitting on them until you get to that new home walkthrough. or the new home demo, final walkthrough, whatever your builder calls it. We like to call it a new home demo because that really is the majority of that walk. Is for us, we want to present a completed home. It's not a 98% complete home. We still have to do the paint touch-ups. We still have to do this and that. No, we want to present a completed home with as much of those punch items completed as possible. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that 100% of the items are always done. We get to this final walkthrough, and just to keep our schedules tight and not let the home linger, we will do the final walkthrough towards the end, not at 100% completion, of course. But that final walkthrough gives us some time before the closing date. We give a nice buffer there so that when we do that new home demo, if there is anything, of course, that the homeowner sees as we're walking, or even if we see, I bring stuff to everybody's attention if I'm walking it and it's something new that I just saw. So yeah, we'll put that on a running list as we're going through on that new home demo, and then just have that be the final list of anything that is on this list is what we will get corrected, ideally before closing, and we all can sign off on that. If for any reason there's something that lingers beyond closing, the idea is that it is agreed upon before everybody signs the home off and homeowners move in. And then those items get turned into an instant warranty right away. So basically that's how we handle that final walkthrough or that new home demo. And we find this to be the cleanest way because if, say, for instance, you have a dented garage door panel that happened while your guy was power washing the home at the very end or something like that. Garage door panels could take 2 to 3 months to get ordered and delivered and then installed. Most people are going to say, hey, it's a small little dent. I'm not going to hold the whole home up. Let's go ahead and close, and we'll just turn that into a warranty. That's just an example. But there's several things like that you got to weigh those things. Are you going to wait and delay your move-in and your closing by several months for some item like that? Or are you going to go ahead and just sign off on it? We all agree that this is still a lingering item. It's going to go beyond closing, and we'll turn it into a warranty. So that's just an example. But the goal of the new home demo, just to talk through that real quick, is basically we start from the street and we walk all the way through the property. We walk through the home and we show the water shutoffs, for instance. We show the sewer cleanouts. We show the electrical breaker panels. We show all the features and functions of that new home for that homeowner. They may have made all the selections for that home and know it very well, but it still helps to just recap it and say, hey, in the event of a water leak or something like that, here's where you're going to turn off your water. In the event of, your water softener being low on salt, here's where you put the salt in. These are just examples of little things of how to maintain the home too. Once a year, go ahead and flush out your HVAC lines, stuff like that. So we talk through all that. Here's where your air filters are. Here's how you
water heaters.
Yep, water heaters, all that kind of stuff, So this is the time, and this is when you walk through, and it's an exciting walk, and the homeowners get to see their home basically completed. And like we said, the goal of this walk for us, at least, is not to just go through and pick the house apart. It shouldn't be at that point where the homeowners are just, nitpicking left and right. All that stuff should have already been fixed. And ideally, this walk is just a smooth, hey, home's basically done. Here's what we're still working on item-wise, and let's go ahead and walk it. Let's talk about all the features and functions of your new home. Anything to add on that, Dad?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And there was something earlier that you mentioned. We're going to do the walkthrough about a week before closing, perhaps, because if you find anything, we have a week to get it done. But it's a good time to just get your finances in order if you're a week out. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind that go ahead and call your mortgage company or your title company and make sure that, get the ball rolling on that. So come closing day, you have all the papers, but that's irrelevant to the closing. It was just something that came across my mind that, don't forget about the closing documents and whatnot as you're doing the walkthrough. But
yeah, for sure.
And then you explain the walkthrough process pretty good, Steve.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point too, because we're touching a lot on, what builders are doing on our end and what we're working through with the clients, but we also want to make them aware of, some of their obligations as well, which would be the mortgage and the title company, making sure they're getting all the necessary documents together for those companies to close on time. Yeah, you mentioned that, yeah, we try to do this walk, I would say at least a week before closing
Yeah.
sometimes, and that can be very flexible depending on the scope and the size of the project and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you definitely want to add some buffer time in there because, like we talked about, there's very few times where we do this final walkthrough and there aren't just at least some lingering items on our end, or the homeowners find some items as we're walking, things like that that need to be addressed. And yeah, we want to have the proper amount of time to do that before closing. So definitely something that we try to do earlier as opposed to later. But you also don't want to walk an incomplete home. So you don't want to walk them at, 98% and you still have to do your punch work and cleans and whatever else. That's not a smooth walkthrough. So that's a little more about the final walkthrough. Yeah, we touched on working and coordinating with the title company and the mortgage company. Now we're basically at closing. So let's talk about closing and move-in and yeah, what that all entails. I mean, closing is most likely in every state's a little different, of course. I want to preface with that we use closing or title companies. Other states sometimes just use lawyers or attorneys to draft up the final documents, and there aren't necessarily title companies. So it can look a multitude of different ways. Some people will close in their builder's office or with the title company in the title office. The we like to try to close homeowners on site if we can. So they're excited about their new home if they live close by and they're ready to get everything going, and we can hand the keys over right on site. Kind of a cool way to wrap the home up and send it off. So anyways, yeah, closing day is an exciting one. The builder is excited to hand the keys over. And the new homeowners, of course, are extremely excited to move into this new home that they just designed and built and saw the entire process. And now they get to enjoy it. So yeah, usually immediately upon closing, some people do when the keys are handed over, which is usually when the project is funded, that final funds go through, then you're free to move in as the homeowners. Yeah, bring the moving truck, your furniture, your dogs, your family, everybody, and time to move in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Let's talk about warranty.
yeah, because I was going to say, I think that's the next thing here. So yeah, now that you moved in, like we've kind of touched on, but what happens if something comes up? What happens if something wasn't 100%, or, a fixture fails or something like that, right? How are you protected? And that's where warranty comes in. So just like with new vehicles nowadays, most vehicles are coming with some sort of warranty, whether that's a 30,000, 3 to 36 months, whatever it is, right? These automobile manufacturers have these different warranty programs. Builders should have a warranty program as well. And for the state of Texas, that's dictated by Texas law, actually, that holds the builders accountable for what warranties we're required to have. But every state's probably going to be a little bit different, I would guess. So warranty obligations are different depending on where you live, for sure. But the biggest thing to note here, I think, is just to know what your builder offers for warranty. Some builders offer more than the state mandated warranties, for instance. So just trying to think through that and know what's expected, and also how you submit a warranty. That's a big thing too. How does your builder expect you to submit warranties? What's the proper process to go through? And then what are the expectations on how quickly are those warranty items going to get handled and addressed, and the communication lines on that? I mean, there's quite a bit to warranty, but the bottom line is something that needs to be fixed and everybody agrees upon it and it's truly a warrantable item, then getting it fixed is the process of warranty. What else, Dad? Anything there?
No, and know what your role in the warranty is. Some builders, if it's a mechanical issue, some builders want you to call the mechanical trades directly. So if you have a water leak on a Sunday morning, you're not going to obviously send an email to the builder and, do you call the plumber directly? So, make sure that you understand the process and what's your responsibility versus the builder's responsibility. I would say anything cosmetic, should be kind of just what I tell people is just, put a list on your refrigerator in your office, and as the cosmetic things add up, just kind of keep a list so we can send a painter back in one time or whatever the cosmetic issue is, so we can and not have to bother you more than once also to come back and fix those. If we're going to send a painter in, let's let the painter come back one time and get all the things that are wrong. I'm not talking about a year from now, but in a couple months. So we know that there's going to be some little things. and just to not have to keep coming back in your home every time there's one single little thing. And just kind of keep a note of that. Obviously, the bigger items we want to address immediately, whatever they may be.
Yeah. And to elaborate on that, every builder is going to have, some different guidelines on what's covered under warranty and what's not. So that's important to understand before you get to this point, of course. It's ideally important to understand at the beginning, before you sign the contract with your builder, that you're in agreement of what they cover under warranty and what they don't. But now that you're here and we're at the end of the project, definitely understanding the warranties and what is warrantable, what is not warrantable is critical at this point, because you don't want to be disappointed when your builder comes back to you and says, oh, that, scuffed wall or scratched wall that you caused when you moved in, unfortunately, that's not warrantable, right? So there's definitely things like that if it wasn't caught before closing, whether you did it upon move-in as a homeowner or whether you didn't, it's very hard to prove. So just an example there, but also things that wouldn't be warrantable typically are things like stuff that's out of the builder's control, of course, Mother Nature. So anything that the sun may damage, or hail, for instance, or rain or something like that. Those kind of things are tough for builders to warrant, of course, because it's out of the builder's control. So those are just some examples, but there should be a document, and we have one, of course, but every builder should have a document that specifies what is warrantable, and it tries to make this as black and white, but it definitely is kind of a gray area of warranty and what is warrantable, what isn't. So just understanding that, make sure that you're not disappointed when your builder tells you no. And there's definitely some things that are homeowner maintenance as well. So don't be shocked if your builder says, hey, those air filters we talked about and you didn't change them. Well, now's the time to change them. And because that caused your system to work harder, we're not able to warrant that or whatever. So just making sure you're keeping up with your new home. That's crucial as well.
The biggest thing and the biggest advice I have is, get rid of the whodunits. I call that. So when you're doing the walkthrough, look for the missing, broke, dented, scratched, things that could be arguably that something you may have done as you moved in the home. If there's a dented refrigerator, obviously the question is going to come up, did you do it or did we do it? So during the final walkthrough, make sure that you find the missing, brokes, dented, scratched items and put those on the list, because if it's there before you closed, it's 100% warrantable. Afterwards, the light over the kitchen sink's missing a globe. Well, it probably wasn't missing a globe prior to closing. Where'd the globe go? Did it fall and break, or someone change a light bulb and break it? So those are things that are going to be questioned, naturally going to be questioned by the builder later.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, one thing I want to kind of loop back on and talk about real quick is what's going on the exterior of the home. We covered a little bit of this last time, but let's try not to pass that up on this one as we're finishing out the home. And it's pretty simple of what's going on out there, but we do want to touch on it. So going back to last episode, we had talked about pouring the flat work. So that's going to be your driveway, maybe a sidewalk, any exterior concrete that is not under roof is kind of the way we think about it, would be the flat work. So that flat work concrete was poured in the last episode, ideally around that same time. We do also a final grade is what we talked about in that last episode. So bringing in fresh dirt, making sure that the yard is leveled and topped off if you are doing landscaping with your builder. And then that's where we get to in this episode is, like we talked about, right around the same time that carpet, all that stuff, you want to try to get your landscaping done. So irrigation and landscaping. Now, I've heard recently that, especially here in Central Texas on some bigger lots, of course, when you get to an acre plus, there's builders that aren't going to landscape that whole acre. There's also some builders that won't even landscape the home to finish it, which isn't a problem. Just want to be aware of that going into the contract, of course. But then they give the homeowners, hey, here's a local landscaper that we would recommend, or 2 or 3 or whatever. And then it's kind of the homeowner's responsibility to do some landscaping afterwards. So definitely good to know. But most of the homes we are building, and I would assume most of the homes in the nation, if you're in a neighborhood, so to speak, or any community that is most likely going to require landscaping on a acre or less sized lot, typically, it's reasonable to think that your builder is probably going to do the irrigation and landscaping if you're getting an irrigation system. So in that order, once the final grade is done, you're getting your fence. Ideally, if you're getting a fence, that would go in. Gutters are going to go on at that point too, because now that the height of your grade is all set up, that would be a good time to get that in, direct your water where it needs to go with those gutters. And then irrigation's coming, putting their irrigation in the ground and setting it all up for where your landscaping is going to go. So usually like drip lines, and this is all Central Texas, of course. I don't know, Dad, you might be able to touch on how they do it up in the north with freezing and things like that and different landscaping, but we use drip lines or drip tubes for flower beds, and then we use spray heads for the spray irrigation in bigger areas to cover grass, some shrubs, bushes, trees, things like that. So anyways, that's irrigation. And then of course your landscaping's coming right after your irrigation goes in. So that kind of ties a nice bow on the outside. And then like we had talked about, that cleaner comes through with the power washer, and we'll power wash everything once the landscaping's done and just kind of cleaning up the exterior of the home. So you've got your landscaping looking nice, you've got your flat work and all that stuff cleaned up, the exterior of the home cleaned up, windows cleaned, and yeah, that's pretty much how they're going to complete the exterior.
Yeah. One of the advantages of living up north, I know that if the winter building up north, they're not putting landscaping in during the winter. So the builder will escrow an amount for the landscaping and put it in, 6 months or 4 months after you close, which is kind of an advantage because it's there when you're living there. You can maintain it and just kind of pick it up right from the beginning and make sure that everything is living. So that's we don't do that in the South. In the South, we put the landscaping in, and it's before closing, and then the grass and landscaping has to be watered. But up north, they'll escrow it sometimes if it's a winter build.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's good to know. And I could definitely see that. You're not trying to plant sod and expect it to grow in freezing winter temperatures. So we don't get that much here. But yeah, definitely something to think through.
Right.
So, well, cool. Anything to finalize this series and wrap up this episode?
No, just it's coming to an end. It's a wonderful thing. It's an exciting time when your home is done and you get to move in. So through the whole process, as painful as it is sometimes, look at the rose, not the thorns. When you're going to be living in a beautiful home, and hopefully it's a beautiful home and you like it. You picked it, and they're all your selections. So it's time to enjoy it. I'll probably end with that. Just enjoy your home.
Absolutely. Yep. I like that. Yeah. Congratulations is due, of course, if this is the final step of your home and you get to move in and now start to enjoy it. Yeah. Remember that ideally you picked all the selections and you made the decisions that got you to this point. And don't forget that, yeah, hopefully this is the house that you envisioned, and you're extremely excited to move in and start making memories there with your family or your friends or however you plan to use the home. So yeah, definitely an exciting time, and congratulations is due. So, well, cool. It's been a great series, Dad. Thanks for sticking with it and helping me finish this out.
It's been wonderful. It's all really good stuff to know, and hopefully we've educated a few people out there that maybe this will help them in the process when they build their new home.
Yeah,
so best of luck to anybody.
For sure. Yeah, I think it was it's fun. It maybe dove deep in some areas, but hopefully the listeners find that to be informative and helpful on their journey of building a custom home, because that's the whole idea of this podcast, is just to help our listeners feel more informed and confident going into a custom home build. So this is all part of it, and what to expect throughout the actual building of the home, which is more in the builder's hands than the client's hands. But all that pre-construction stuff that we cover so much is more in the client's hands than the builder's hands. So it's a little bit of a shift in balance there. But yeah, as the home gets built, it's exciting, and it should be, and it's emotional, and it can be stressful. But just remember that this is the end goal. This is what you worked for, and this is the new home that you get to live with. So yep,
For sure.
Definitely cool. And yeah, on to the next episodes after this. We'll jump into them. But as always, just want to thank all the listeners for your support. We do this to help you guys be more informed, and we love doing it. We don't ask for anything in return. It's all free. We don't run any sponsorships or ads or anything like that. It's really just us, and to kind of put our thoughts out there, and hopefully it helps other people. So hopefully you guys as the listeners get value from that. We will ask one small favor. If you can, leave a rating or review on whatever platform you're on, because it helps us grow the podcast and get this out to more people that it could benefit. So definitely do that if you can. A positive 5-star review or rating really helps. And leave some comments. We love to hear your feedback. Also, reach out to us too if you want to have us cover anything in future episodes that you think would be beneficial to other people. We're always looking for new ideas and what would really fit our listeners the best. So we kind of just throw episodes out there that we think would work best, but it's always great to hear from you guys to help kind of steer that path a little bit and talk about what you actually want to hear. So thank you again. And we always appreciate you guys listening. So that'll wrap this episode up for 35 and on to the next one. We'll talk to you guys next.